Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menashe. On today's show, we're examining a potential source of revenue for your income property that has the benefit of a little extra cash flow, plus being environmentally green. The economics of solar power have been somewhat marginal over the last several decades. That's why governments have stepped in and offered generous incentives to subsidize the cost of a solar installation. That subsidy usually came in the form of higher purchase prices for electricity contributed to the electrical grid from a solar farm. These projects would not have been economically viable without the subsidy. But in recent years, the cost of electrical panels have come down to nearly $1 per watt of produced capacity. The total installed cost is about double that amount. Most of the subsidies today have disappeared. These projects make sense on their own merits. The payback on a solar panel project is anywhere from 10 to 20 years, depending on the local cost of electricity and the number of effective daylight producing hours. The high capital cost of these projects has made them unattractive due to the long payback. But two alternatives have surfaced. These are the solar lease and the power purchase agreement. The solar leases have been around for quite a few years now. In recent years, they've come mostly with performance guarantees, which can make them very similar to a power purchase agreement. On today's show, I'm going to explain the differences, but in practice, none of these should matter whether it's a lease or a power purchase agreement. It's probably not going to make a huge impact on your decision making. So you might be thinking, wait a minute, you can lease a solar system? The answer is yes. What will affect your decision is the bottom line guaranteed cost to you at the end of each month and the bottom line value of the electricity that the system is going to produce for you. If you're getting a quote for a solar lease and also for a solar power purchase agreement, each will break down the monthly guaranteed costs and savings. So it doesn't really matter whether you're paying for the electricity or renting a piece of equipment that happens to produce electricity for free. What you call the agreement doesn't matter all that much. So let's look first at the power purchase agreement. Your typical upfront cost is going to be pretty low. It's going to be maybe a few $1,000s. You're typically locked in for 15 to 18 years in that agreement. It's transferable to the new owner, and they charge you a set electrical rate that is typically a flat rate. Sometimes it's indexed over the cost of inflation. So instead of paying the utility for your electricity rates, you're going to be paying the power purchase agreement rates generated through your solar panels. The company takes care of the maintenance and any needed repairs, and they monitor your system. Now, you don't get any of the tax benefit, none of the state rebates, or the renewable energy credits. You usually have some kind of option to later buy the system at the end of the agreement at a particular fixed price per watt. That's somewhat negotiable, and you should at least try and negotiate since the solar panels at the end of life are not worth that much on the open market. You've got to have an excellent credit rating to qualify, and you're always tied to the grid, so any residual electricity needs that your panels can't produce is covered by your utility. So now let's look at the solar lease. There's usually no down payment, so $0 down. You're locked into 15 years or more, which is transferable again to the new owner if you choose to sell the property. In a solar lease versus a power purchase agreement, you don't pay for any of the power that your panels generate. Instead, you pay a lease payment, plus you pay for any extra power that you need to buy from the electric company. So solar power is technically free, but it's offset by the lease payment that rises typically anywhere from 3 to 4% a year, typically less than the rate increase from your utility company. Like the power purchase agreement, they take care of any maintenance and repairs, they monitor your system, and you don't get any of the tax benefits, the rebates, or the renewable energy credits. Like the power purchase agreement, you've got an option to buy it later at the end of the lease term for a fixed price. Again, you want to negotiate a fair market value because the panels aren't worth that much at the end of the lease. Like the power purchase agreement, you're always tied to the electrical grid, so any residual electricity needs are covered by your utility. So if you're purchasing an income property, an office building, an industrial building, you might consider looking into a solar lease or power purchase agreement. Do the math, and you might save some money and do good at the same time. As you're thinking about that, have an awesome rest of your day. Go make some great things happen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.